Welcome to the Darkstream, Voxday, voxday.blogspot.com, and unauthorized.tv. Sorry about the short notice and the lack of notifications, but I was actually not thinking that I was going to even be able to do a Darkstream tonight because I was in the middle of working on some things. You know, one thing that I've found about working out and writing and doing dark streams is that if you don't keep at it regularly, then you skip it once, it's easier to skip it the second time. Creative Bear has an extra ticket for the Ohio show. How do I give it to someone who is looking for one? Put your email in the chat here, and I have no doubt whatsoever that someone will get in contact with you. So, anyhow, tonight what I want to talk about is kind of related to Owen's tour, and it's about team building. You know, it may not be apparent to you, but there was a tremendous amount of team building that had to take place in order for the tour to happen. If you're looking for a ticket to the Ohio show, Creative Bear just put his email in the chat. Copy it and fire off an email to him. But you know, there's a lot of moving pieces, especially in the situation that we were in, that Owen was in, because with all the complications relating to various SJWs trying to interfere with the show, with the gammas who don't like Owen attempting to interfere with it, all that sort of thing. You know, there was a lot of moving parts, a lot of dealing with venues and so forth. And so how do you know who to trust? How do you know upon whom you can rely? And this is where the socio-sexual hierarchy can be very, very helpful. You know, we would like to believe that we could just say, oh, so-and-so is a Republican, so he'll be good. So-and-so is a Christian, so I can trust him. So-and-so is he likes the same things I do. Therefore, I'll be able to rely upon him. That's how we naturally think. But the truth is, it doesn't work that way. I mean, I know this for a fact because we have worked with literally dozens of volunteers over the years. Most of them don't work out. I've hired dozens of people over the years. I can count on two hands the number of people that I really feel like I can rely upon, just to do their job, to do it well, and to not introduce drama, create problems, waste my time, etc., to the detriment of other projects. And so, thanks, Steve. I'll get to the super chats in a bit here. And this isn't to denigrate those who want to volunteer and find it doesn't work out for any of many different possible reasons. But one of the most reliable tools, hey, I really like what you're doing. I want to be a part of it. And that's great. You know, whether they hear back from me or not, you know, I genuinely appreciate it. You know, but here's the thing, like if you want to help do something, it's very important to understand that no existing group of people or organization or even successful individual are looking for ideas. That's like showing up at an army base and saying, hey, I have some great ideas for a war. Why don't you let me be the general and I'll tell everybody what to do? There's two types of people who do that. Can you guess which two types of people have a tendency to do that? Two types of men who do that. Specifically, two types, and appreciate their enthusiasm and absolutely refuse to accept any help from them. It's actually funny to me how often somebody who is an alpha, there's not that many alphas out there, and most alphas already have things going, but it is funny when you do encounter an alpha who wants to work with you, and they just, you know what you should be doing? You should be doing this, because you could totally completely change everything that you're doing and do it this way, and it would be fantastic. Maybe it would be. But you know what? We're already proceeding successfully. Gammas are incredibly frustrating but it's actually good when they come in strong like that, because then not to let them in at all. Anybody who is successful in anything has more ideas than they can possibly apply and utilize. I have more ideas than I have time to get around to. You guys all know that because of the projects that are either backburnered or that I'm behind on and so forth. But so having somebody come in and saying, I got a great idea, you should totally do this, instead of the 10 things that we're doing and the 5 other things that we want to be doing but are not keeping up with. No. I appreciate that you like the operation. I appreciate that you like what I'm doing, etc., etc., but that's totally functionally wrong. I don't want any change agents. I don't want any ideas. I'm not saying I don't appreciate suggestions. I'm not saying that I don't sometimes find concepts that people throw at me interesting. But everybody has things has projects that they're working on, has objectives that they're attempting to achieve, and just, if you're in the middle of besieging Munich and some gamma comes in and says, I have a great idea for attacking Berlin. Just give me half the tanks and all the airplanes, and I could use some artillery too. It'd be a great idea. You're like, why don't you just stay out of it and let us finish taking Munich, right? So that's one thing that's important. Just always keep the gammas out. You're going to end up with a few of them one way or another, but above all, never ever let them sneak into the consulting, advisory, management positions that they always want. Because what the gamma wants is power and influence without responsibility. There is nothing that they love better than attempting to, or than putting themselves in an advisory position to the alpha, telling the alpha what to do, but not being in the position of the alpha and having to deal with the actual management and responsibility for delivering. So, and I realize this may sound a little harsh, but it's not anything personal. It's not, this is just about building a team, getting the job done. Yeah, Wormtongue from Lord of the Rings is the quintessential gamma. And Ricky says, every gamma I've worked with always says the same thing after you have an idea. I could have done that. Maybe. Yeah, this is more like it. The gamma says, I've got a great idea, but I'm too afraid of the consequences of being wrong, so I'll let you take the risk. Precisely. And so it's just so important not to allow those types of people, even when they're on your side, even when they want to be helpful or trying to be helpful, it just causes problems. Red has an interesting point. Red Tech says, I tried management around the height of my gammitude. I couldn't handle it. No, I mean, I wouldn't expect you to be able to handle it. It's just, Sam says, we had a crew on board a volunteer gig just for giving orientation to volunteers we didn't want on the team. Us welcoming committee members just served to identify, isolate, and ostracize these people. That's funny. But, it's best just to keep them out if you can. Ha! Thomas W. said, I recently found out that Ben Shapiro's mom worked while his dad stayed home. This explains so much. Yep, I mean, you have a poor male role model. You usually don't have, men don't usually develop well that way. I wish I could make the chat bigger, but oh well. It's amazing to me how Google just keeps, or YouTube just keeps making the interface worse. It's crazy. So, what you want mostly what you ideally want is you want some bravos. You want people who are capable of doing the job, not just capable of, but fundamentally interested in taking direction, but are also comfortable enough with leadership that they're able to allow, or that they're able to pass jobs on. People say, well, what's the matter with deltas? Deltas sound great, and deltas are great. They're great, but that doesn't mean that they're ideal for every position. Everybody understands that a delta is not optimal in the position of alpha. We got it. We get it, right? But a delta is also not ideal in the position of bravo. Do you know why? Because the delta always wants to do all the work himself. Deltas are very, very bad about delegating. I mean, they can understand it, they can know they need to do it, etc., but they almost always give in to just doing it themselves. Oh, it's just easier for me to do it myself. Well, yeah, and that's true to a point. And then you get overloaded. It's inevitable. And so Dr. Jeep says deltas actually do the work. They do. But that can be a problem if they're supposed to be directing the work, or if they're supposed to be managing the work. Remember, we're talking about team building. Like one of the things that a lot of people may not realize who were in Idaho at the at Owen's show is that a number of the people who are responsible for making the Rebels Run movie were there. And, in fact, the director actually called me up and said, "Hey, would it be possible for me to just help out with the cameras?" Which is not what he does. That's several levels below what he normally does. But I immediately took him up on the offer because I wanted him to have the chance to actually meet and work with the guy who's been doing the special, who's basically been running all the details related to the tour stuff. And that's one of the things you want to do when you're building a team is you want to give people the opportunity to work together on non-mission critical projects before you get to the mission critical stuff. I mean, it's a little bit hard to screw up, filming Owen on a comedy tour. Make sure the camera is on the guy who tells the jokes, right? And so, and then what we did as well is that we are also, one of the other producers has taken the lead on this documentary that we've already filmed. And all three of these guys who are involved with Rebels Run have now had the opportunity to work together on at least 2 occasions. This is key. This is how you build a team. It's by gradually giving people responsibility and seeing how they operate together. Most people would not believe how small the Castalia House operation is. We've published hundreds of books and comics. Now we're stepping into the well, Tim, we can tell that you're probably a Gamma who is involved with cameras because you just said, talk about belittling cameramen. Maybe it is harder than you think. I don't think about it at all. I have absolutely no thoughts about camera work or whether it's difficult or not. What I do know is that practically every single cameraman would absolutely love to be a director. And that directors have way more status, way more responsibility, and there's a lot fewer of them than there are cameramen. So don't joke in a Gamma way. As Owen has said many times, there's no intonation when you type. Okay? The point is, but here's the interesting thing. Here you have a director who's willing to get his hands dirty. That's also significant from a team building exercise. It means that you've got somebody who is in charge, but who is focused on getting the job done. These things are all very useful, all very interesting. And this is why I believe that the Rebels Run movie is going to be successful. And I believe that it's going to be the nucleus of an effective team over time, which is the goal. And the thing that's so interesting about teams is that it's true. I mean, it's a cliche, but a good team is better than the sum of the parts. It's really kind of astonishing to look at even my old band, Psychosonic. 4 very different guys. All of us are highly successful in our different areas. But the interesting thing is that none of us has ever been on the charts again. We did better. We operated better together as a team. At least in that capacity as a band. You know, these guys still do great stuff. You know their stuff. If you've been to a Marvel movie in the past 5 years, you've heard Dan's music. If you've played an epic game like Fortnite or Gears of War, you've heard Mike. Obviously, if you're here, and Paul is the most talented out of the four of us. It's not even close in terms, when it comes to music. And yet, what have I done musically since then? What have they done? We had what, 4 Billboard Top 40 club hits in a couple of years together, So we always want to look for ways that the team can be more effective together than just the sum of the parts. And what that usually involves is making sure that you've got the right pieces from the social sexual hierarchy and not too many of the wrong ones. And so, that's what I try to do. And that's why, if you're wondering why you send me emails with your great idea and so forth, and I don't even respond to you, well, that's why. It's not appropriate. Most of the people that I work with now, I've worked with for years. Because what we do is we give somebody a very small responsibility. I mean, small to the point that it's almost insulting. It's that easy. And yet, 90% of the time, it doesn't get done. I just hired a woman to do some admin stuff, and the first thing I sent her was literally, something that a retarded monkey could have done. Now, I happen to know this woman, and I was not even in the least bit surprised to see that it was completed and back in my email later that day, sooner than she had even promised. Not a surprise. I know she's good. That's why I hired her. But the point is that you give people small things to do, and if they just do it and get it done, then you offer them the next job and the next job and so forth. And that's how you build trust, and that's how you build confidence, and that's how you allow somebody to become part of the team. When you get these people that, I love you so much, I want to be involved with everything you do, etc., etc. It's like, no, it doesn't work. It can't work that way. It never works that way. And if you ever make the mistake of doing that, well, that's the kind of situation that you see, for example, Owen having gotten himself in a lot. He's much more open and trusting than I am. For example, the guy that is producing the special and the documentary and all that sort of thing, he first contacted me right after we launched Unauthorized. I mean, absolutely right after we launched. I'm talking like the second or third day. And he said, hey, I've got this film company. We produce commercials. You can see the stuff. I'd love to put our stuff up there someday. So I went and looked at it, and it was interesting because, I was like, okay, this guy's clearly talented. And so he came up with an idea. I said, well, I don't think that that's appropriate now. I said, but I'll keep you in mind. And we just stayed in contact occasionally. And then when it turned out that we needed somebody to do the film for this first documentary, I asked him if he'd be interested in doing it. And he not only did in filming it and editing it, and he said, sure. Next thing we know, Owen's busy, Amy's busy, they're having problems with venues. Next thing we know, he's like, talking directly to the people at the venues, arranging this, arranging that, all that sort of thing. And suddenly, the director and I are going, maybe this guy is capable of doing more than whatever the one role was. And relax, Paladin Bear. All gammas feel like they're sigmas. All gammas think they're alphas until they find out what alphas actually are and they realize how ridiculous that is. And then they promptly decide that they're sigmas. Just relax, get over yourself. The utility of the social sexual hierarchy is not for you to talk about yourself. It's so that you can identify and anticipate the behavior of other human beings. Your own rank is irrelevant to you. So, yeah. Anyhow, I'm so behind on the Voxiversity stuff, and I think one reason why I'm behind on it is I'm just dreading doing the Sigma video. Or I'm partly dreading doing the Sigma video and dealing with all the, you're just making that up because you want to, claim that's what you are. So you get that, and then you'll get, and that's annoying. But what's even more annoying is all of the gammas going, yes, I am a Sigma. I am a secret king. Welcome, Alex Heterodoxy Bear Cluster. It's a mouthful, but you're welcome. By the way, new members, I haven't pointed this out in a few days. New members, please, if you want notifications, which normally I send, but I didn't send tonight, please send me your email if you want to get the nightly notifications. So, know your name. I do not claim the only difference between sigma and gamma is success. It's a fundamentally different behavioral pattern. For example, gammas want to be part of the hierarchy. They want to be part of the hierarchy, and they want to be at the top of the hierarchy. Sigmas don't care about the hierarchy. Sigmas are fundamentally uncomfortable with it. So that's just one of the many differences. And, perhaps we'll eventually get to the point of doing something that helps people understand the differences. Could you talk about how to treat omegas so they don't go crazy and kill people? It's very simple. All omegas want is a little bit of kindness and a little bit of respect. The problem is everybody is terrified to give that to them because they're so hungry for it that they respond like starved puppies that are fed for the first time. They desperately crave that so much that everybody's afraid to give it to them. I mean, you know how it is. If you're nice to the guy who's at the bottom of the totem pole, they suddenly want to follow you everywhere and they think you're their best friend. And you might actually be their best friend just because you're being somewhat nice to them. You know. So the key thing is that if you're building a team, regardless of what you are filling the role of alpha. You know, it doesn't matter what you naturally are. You know, one of the reasons why I constructed this intellectual framework is to help me better operate as part of a team, regardless of what role I'm in. You know, when it comes to these projects and stuff, I'm in the role of an alpha. On my soccer team, I'm nothing but a delta. And, I am able to function much better as a member of my soccer team in that role. And so I intentionally avoid telling people, giving my captain ideas. If he asks me for an idea, I'll be happy to tell him. Every now and then, when I get really frustrated, I'll bitch a little bit. I mean, if I'm sitting there on the sideline and, one of the wings is just like exhausted to the point of walking, then I'll maybe say, he's tired. Let's change. No, I'm not saying sigmas can slip into any hierarchy rank. You totally missed the point. No matter what your behavioral pattern is, you will find yourself in different roles in different situations. So, on my football team, I fit best as a delta. That doesn't change the things that I struggle with. Alpha stroking or the pats on the head, that the easier it is for them to accommodate each other's weaknesses and idiosyncrasies. That's very important. So I'm not saying that, no matter what you are, no matter what your natural behavioral tendency is, you need to be ready to behave in the correct way if you find yourself in a different situation. Bear Arm says, pats on the head, it feels more like a scratch on the back. Whatever. Again, Sigma, don't care. Don't need it. Don't tend to deal it out. That's what alphas do. You can always tell the gammas because they see so many different things in themselves. Look, whenever you guys talk about what you are, that's like pretty strong indication that you're a gamma, just so you know, because I don't care and nobody else cares. So what is the behavioral pattern of talking narcissistically about yourself to a bunch of people who didn't ask and don't care? So, I don't know if gamma is covert narcissism. I think the gammas would like to believe it's covert, but again, it's very transparent. This is interesting. James says, I met up with a former coworker of a team I led and asked him what I could have done better. He kind of reached a bit at first, so I asked if focusing on morale would have helped, and he lit up. Yeah, morale is one of the single most important things that in any organization, in any team, and that maintaining morale is one of the primary responsibilities of the leaders. That's why Owen is so effective with the Bears, because he's always enthusiastic, and that enthusiasm is infectious, and he gets everybody all fired up about crushing. Um, you know, I am obviously not charismatic in that way. I'm not very enthusiastic, but um, the morale of the VFM and the Dread Ilk tends to be very high because of our track record of success followed by success followed by success. There's different ways to maintain morale. And so, if I were to sense that, right now, everybody's morale is sky high. You all know why. But if we had suffered a couple setbacks and morale was difficult and so forth, then I would go out and find a couple easy wins. At least for the VFM, because again, it's all infectious. Even when there's a small operation that only 10 VFM even are involved with or know about, the morale that the uplifted morale that they experience as a result of their success tends to be picked up and carried on. And so let's see. Dr. Jeep says, there's something to be happy about when even the Sigma is happy and showing it. Well, actually, what I'm happy about tonight is the response to the Castalia Deluxe books. I mean, this, you want to talk about winning. We are currently at, now obviously not everybody is going to follow through, and there's probably going to be a few folks that don't even know about it yet. But as of right now, we have 115 people who have expressed serious interest in subscribing to Castalia Deluxe. That is massive, because I figured that we would need at least 10 to even think about it, and 20 to take the risk of getting it rolling. If we actually are able to begin this with Flat Moon Bear says 116, well, make sure you email then. Yeah. And again, don't email just to be supportive. I appreciate it. I love it. I love the enthusiasm, but unless you're like 85% certain that this is something you want to do, don't volunteer. But no, that you would be able to spark that level of interest. He said, I don't even think that a very successful author who's some of whose stuff we don't publish, and he's actually he didn't even let me finish talking, and he said, yes, absolutely, I would love it if you guys would publish a leather-bound edition of my stuff. And so, this is going exceedingly well. It's making things possible that I didn't think were going to be possible, and I'll keep you all informed as we go along. We should be launching. Let me address the question. There's a good question about the Castalia Classics here. Let's see. Whoa, something about like what are we keeping from 1958? What we're going to do is we're going to take all but 2 of the Alice in Wonderland stories. Then there was another one that was like stories of today, and these stories of today were what were then modern stories, and none of them are really any good. So we're just replacing that with the 1958 Sport and Adventure. So let's see here. Okay, let's get to the super chats then. Sigma Bear says Portland and Sandpoint was epic to attend and support. Yeah, I'm really happy to hear that. I mean, I talked to the camera guy today. Actually, I talked to both the camera guys today, and they both said it was. They said the energy was unbelievable. Momentum is building for sure. If any skunk work needs to be done, I'm up for it. I do have the time and resources at hand. Let's start small and go from there. Well, we've got some ideas, so I will let you know when we're looking for that. I don't know where I would place Travis Bickle because I've never seen Taxi Driver. Remember, not a movie guy. Let's see here. Okay. M. Bolster, as is his wont, gets it off to a start. Thank you. Creative Bear mentioned he has a ticket. His email is in the chat if you are looking for a ticket to Ohio. Seeker of Truth said, how do you define and identify a Gamma Christian? A Gamma Christian is just a Christian who happens to be a Gamma, and as Churchians. But these are separate things. These things are orthogonal to being a Gamma. It's just that being a Gamma will probably encourage you to move towards those positions because, unfortunately, within the Christian world, there's a lot of that passive aggressiveness that men of higher social status despise, and it's just an environment that Gammas are more comfortable in. Stephen Swinton says, hey Vox, thanks for everything. Love the work with Castalia. Preserve those classics and we will buy. Excellent. Also, if you ever need a Belgian hand, happy to assist in any way, Cosmo Bear. Thanks, Cosmo Bear. Marie Goulet says, hi Peter, smiley face. Thomas W. said, I recently found out that Ben Shapiro's mom worked while his dad stayed home. This explains so much. It also probably explains why he's so proud that his wife is a doctor. Elfin says, my brother is a full-fledged Gamma and we've always hated each other. He also hates my father. Do all Gammas have daddy issues? Most of them seem to. A lot of them don't seem to have fathers at all. It was, for example, it was not a surprise to me to find out that John Scalzi, didn't know who his father was, or his father had abandoned his mother at an early age or something like that. I couldn't understand why he was so extreme until I found out that he had broken his leg while he was in elementary school and basically had to spend the entire year spending recess in the nurse's office. You put those two things together, it's not going to be good. Kevin Bros sends $2. Thanks. Marie Goulet observes, start a line and people will stand in it. That is strange. Thomas W. says 90% of anime is cringy Gamma wish fulfillment. Yeah, and that's what science fiction has turned into. If you want to know what the big difference between deltas and Gammas are, look at the thriller fiction of the 80s. The Ludlum, Tom Clancy, that kind of stuff. That's delta fiction. That's what deltas dream about. If you look at the science fiction and fantasy of the 80s, 90s, and beyond, that's where you see a lot of Gamma fiction. The Chosen One, who is just always successful for no reason that anybody can ever explain. And the red-haired love interest is always inexplicably drawn to. It's just, it's, if you want to understand the difference, you can see it in the literature very easily. The Mass Menace. Did you enjoy new wave music? I do. I didn't. I don't did. I do. If so, which bands influence your music? Well, I mean, my favorite bands early on were new wave bands were the Cars, Missing Persons, and Duran Duran. I also really liked and really like Alphaville. I liked Flock of Seagulls, and um, you know that's what I liked from the new wave side. I mean, Depeche Mode, of course. Um, and then what influenced our stuff was that we liked that, but we also like metal guitars, and so that's why you hear a bit of that heavier intensity, especially on the first album, which I was more influential on. Alex Heterodoxy Bear Closter sends $10. Thank you. Defiance Bear says, if an organization with longevity like a military government is infested with gammas, are there any examples of successfully purging them? I think possibly if you look at the Soviet purges that Stalin did. Now, I don't know much about the generals that he was purging, but it is clear that they were replaced with extremely effective individuals. Zhukov and others like him. So, Sigma Bear mentioned Portland and Sandpoint were epic. That's great. Cody Gatlin gives me a little too much credit. He says, Vox is a history expert. What is your nationalist argument against America being forced to give land back to the natives when many other empires throughout history have been forced to? First of all, I'm not a history expert. I'm simply somebody who reads a lot of history. But in terms of my argument against America being forced to give land back to the natives, there's not enough natives left. There's not enough of us to be able to take the land back. But the empire will still give the land up, and we're already seeing that. I mean, it's already happened. Just because you call them Hispanic U.S. citizens doesn't make them Americans. They're not. The nation that currently holds most of California and New Mexico and is moving into Arizona and so forth is a different nation. So don't get confused by paperwork. Great Odin's Raiden says, sent an email about offering audio assistance at Owen shows if needed. We'll be at both. Great. I will pass that on to the relevant individuals. Yeah, we swapped red natives for brown natives. Exactly. Let's see here. Where can we find a list of all these personality types? Just go to my blog and click on SSH, or you can watch the Voxiversity called The Sociosexual Hierarchy at unauthorized.tv. The Cure. I like The Cure, but they were not an influence at all. I mean, The Cure is a good band, or has a good core with Robert, whatever his name is. But man, that is like pure gamma music. And so I like the music. I like the songwriting for the most part, but I was really never drawn to it. No, I'm not a fan of Alien or Predator. Offhand, can you think of any non-gamma anime? I have never seen or read a single anime in my life. I have absolutely no idea about any anime, period. So, All right. Well, what's a good label for the European immigrants in America? Uh, I would just say, you know, Europeans. That's or European Americans if you prefer. I always get confused when people ask me these questions like these. Not even Dragon Ball Z. What part of I have never ever read or watched any anime whatsoever was hard to understand? None. Zero. No interest whatsoever. I lived in Japan. There are things about Japanese culture I very much appreciate. I love reading Murakami. I enjoy Mishima. I've actually read most of the major Japanese novelists who are available in English. But I didn't even know much about Western comic books until 2 years ago. So, JG says, "Let the SDL read his books in peace." Look, you can't be into everything. I mean, everybody knows what I'm into, and that's pretty much it. So, um, now I will say that I have learned to respect, uh, the comic book industry. It's very interesting. Um, Bright Bear says, "Are there any other comic omnibuses at Arkhaven?" Yeah, there's Gungool. Um, there is, oh, I guess that's technically Dark Legion. But yeah, we'll be putting out, as soon as uh, Avalon 5 and 6 come out, we'll be putting together a omnibus. And after we finish 6 more issues of Alt Hero and come out with the second Alt Hero omnibus, we'll probably put them both together and do a leather-bound edition for people that want a really special edition. So, um, so that's we got lots of things underway. So yeah, there's the Right Ho Jeeves omnibus. That's also really good. And then there's also Rebel Dead Revenge. Although I don't know if that technically counts as an omnibus, but it's a massive 250 page production. All right, so thanks for tuning in. Sorry about the lack of notifications, but like I said, this was kind of last minute. Thanks very much if you have indicated that you're interested in signing up for a subscription. I do have thoughts on Alan Moore, but we'll save that for some other time. Alt Hero Q2 is coming out very soon. We just delivered the script. It's all done. We just delivered the script to the letterer. It's being lettered now. So we'll look forward to seeing you the next time. I'm Vox Day, and this is the Darkstream.